Okay, ready to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And so this is the very last session. So now we're going back to networks, that is to say, mobile networks. I'm Stephane Teral from IHS Markit. I cover mobile infrastructure and carrier economics. So we have a distinguished panel. We have a very interesting roster here. And if you remember Warren's slide, I like it because we saw, the AT&T logo, the orange logo, and the NTT. But we only saw AT&T and Orange so far. Now we have NTT Docomo with us on this panel. So that's, I think, a very nice finish along with the vendors, with Ericsson, Affirm Network, and Cavium, because they are all involved in different parts of the networks. You'll see that it's going to be actually very EPC loaded for some reason. And you'll see that reason in a minute. So I think we have heard that the entire day, when we ask service providers. So this is a survey that we conducted in June and July this year. This is the migration or evolution from 4G to 5G. And we asked that open question of what are the main drivers for mobile network virtualization. And you can see fast service introduction, came number one. Half of the respondents actually, selected that one as the key driver, followed by operational efficiencies, network agility and flexibility. But I mean, it all goes together, basically. They want to become, a Facebook, a Google, an Amazon. And this morning, we had an interesting discussion about the OSS mess, because this is a mess. It's going to be a mess for some time. Then you had the B. But the B, like billing, is actually interesting because the more I think about it, and when I look at Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, you don't need a B. Get rid of it altogether. Your life will be much better. That is operational efficiencies. I mean, bill like the way Google bill or Facebook, and then you'll be better off. You'll just have to take care of the OSS at some point, if you can do it. So, as I said, these are the top three drivers, and we talked about it since the beginning. And it's all about business after all. Now, going into the network, we asked the question, basically, where are you? It's a sample of 24 mobile operators, let's say, service providers all around the world. So we have some of the largest service providers when you look at CapEx and revenue. And we asked the question, what is the most virtualized part of the mobile network so far? And, surprise, surprise, VEPC. Is that a surprise? No. I mean, we heard, since this morning that this is pretty natural and logical because this is very, heavy software oriented. But, you can look at the standalone VPC versus the components, like the mobile entity, mobile management entity, the packet gateway, and the service gateway. And then you have some interesting distinctions, like a vPacket gateway is actually more virtualized than the MME or the service gateway. And then when we looked at it, we found that, that's interesting because think about it. I mean, what doesn't need an MME? Something that is not moving anywhere, right? What is that? Good question. What do you think that is? IoT, ladies and gentlemen. We have now VEPC, or simplified EPC deployed for IoT. I mean, a very specific IoT case. You don't want to mess that up, with the people, us, on the MME, right? Connected cars. You need the MME because they are moving. But hey, do you actually put those connected cars onto the same EPC as us? Maybe not. So that's, the distinction we found by doing this survey. And then if you look at, the least, the least virtualized, I mean, that is not a surprise, but I mean, some people, would say, well, I mean, this is bizarre, blah, blah, blah. I mean, RAN, virtualized eNode B, virtualized baseband unit. And that's going to be even more complicated because with 5G in the 5G architecture, neither the centralized RAN architecture nor the distributed RAN architecture is fully optimal for 5G, period. Well, what can we do? Well, you look at central unit, digital unit, and then all the protocols, and you have to make a choice. Where do you move that stuff? You know, close to the edge, close to the core? That's your choice. Somebody is gonna have to make a choice very soon. That is KT because of the Olympics in Pyeongchang in February 2018, in a few months from now. So they have come up actually with 3 potential designs that they will be testing live during the Olympics. Next is NTT Docomo with the Olympics in 2020. They still have more time to actually play around with the different functions and making a choice on what layer you move somewhere. We have all of that, by the way, in a major report that we published last week. It's the 5G technology and market development report. So we look at all these things, but it has never been easy to virtualize the RAN. No matter what some people say, I'm thinking, well, you want a name, Altiostar, for example, being tested, in some of the large service providers in the world, including here in the United States. So now, since we just showed that EPC is actually the most virtualized part of the network, you think 5G, and you have to deal with latency. So that's the extreme case, very low latency. But in between, we see more and more traffic hitting the backhaul. And that is an issue, actually, for what we are doing today. For example, Netflix on the fly, on your device, that's not going to bode well, if you are at the edge of the network or if you are in a very crowded network, And the idea is to basically move, the content very close to the user. And this is the idea of doing mobile edge computing. And we do have a lot of mobile edge computing ongoing already. And last week at Mobile World Congress Americas in the Moscone Center, at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, we could see actually what the service providers did in the area to move the stuff very close to the Moscone. I can tell you, with a big DAS within the Moscone, forget about Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was crap, pure crap, stay on LTE. And actually, as a matter of fact, LTE 4G, 4x4 MIMO, 256 QAM, boom, plus edge computing, your device is rocking. You don't need an iPhone 10. No, that's the way it was. So now, can we move, a little bit further by, let's say, now we have put a server very close to the edge. Can we actually treat that server, as a mini data center? Oh, by the way, where is my central office? Do I have something to put that server, a place to put that server in the area? And that's the whole idea of basically re-architecturing that small mobile office as a data center, and this is known as M-Cord, and this is basically the MEC to some extent. We can argue that has become or is, the M-Cord starting point, and we'll see more and more, evolution in that domain as we move to 5G. Because with 5G, and this was actually a question during, I think, Diane's session about, the potential implication of 5G on IMS, let's say, core. Well, basically, at the 3GPP level, we are looking at NG core, next-gen core. That next-gen core should be cloud native, from day one, programmable. And that's interesting because with, the good old EPC we are running today, we are discovering very interesting situations that contradict what, NFV and VNF are all about, and that is, scalability. Well, you know what? Actually, the good old EPC on hardware scales much better than those V EPC functions. There is a lot of traffic going on in the core. And it looks like those VNFs cannot scale. At 50 gigabytes, you know, that's the max you can go from what I've seen so far by visiting large service providers on this planet. They tell me, you know what, my hardware can actually handle terabytes very easily. I'm adding processors and I'm just doing fine. So when I have vendors telling me, look at my VNF, you know, sexy VNF, that's going to make your life much better, easier, as we said, you know, operational efficiencies, very agile, like the Google of the mobile networking. But at the end of the day, there are very, very interesting situations that are going to need to be addressed, you know, with that NG core within the 5G domain.